All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Thursday night. This is our midweek live show. And everybody in the chat kind of jump in and let's have some fun tonight on this Thursday. You know, we started doing this just because, everybody's stuck at home. So let's get online and let's chat and let's invite some guests. But, normally in the last couple, I've done this once or twice now, and I normally do it by myself. But, Uncle Ed wouldn't let me this week, and he kind of forced his way in. So let's say hi to Uncle Ed.
How you doing, guys? Thanks for, putting up with Peter. Every Thursday now. He's starting to do this show every Thursday. And today we've got a great guest, and I had to, interrupt his party, his show. And I wanted to participate because, I'm a big Fusion fan. So, Peter?
Yeah, we're going to talk to Jim Rooney from Miami Fusion in just a second. But before we do that, we want to say thank you to Caneswear. Go to caneswear.com and use FMTV25 code to save 25% off. It's on the bottom of the screen, so go and use that. They've got a great selection of all your Inter Miami stuff, Miami Hurricanes and baseball, the Marlins. I can't think of all the other sports teams, but Inter Miami, great selection. Go there, use that code FMTV25, save 25% off anything over $99. They ship for free, or shipping is free, not, the shipping is free. So, and I just realized this whole time the camera's on you, Ed. But
yeah.
So, and that's a problem when I'm trying to do this with multiple people. But anyways, let's say hi to our guest and welcome on Jim Rooney. How you doing, Jim?
Good. How are you guys? How's things going? How you coping?
It's good. How are things in the Rooney household during this whole thing we're all going through?
Well, it's I guess it's kind of typical of everybody, really. Well, I mean, everybody's going through something, the same thing. But I just think the difference is for me is my daughters they're old. They're 15, they're 19, and they're 22, where they understand what's going on. Whereas, I think back if they were 3, 6, and 9, when it's much more difficult. So I really don't have it that bad in terms of that. But again, it's just trying to help everybody out, trying to stay in touch with family and friends, and just help everybody along the way. It's difficult.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as far as I have a teenager, 15-year-old. She makes it easy. It's easy when they're older. It's just at the same time, all I hear all day is I'm bored. So
right.
Go read a
book.
Well,
we last night we played Cards Against Humanity, one of those games.
Okay.
I don't recommend it if you have 3 daughters. Some of those questions are brutal, man.
No, we're sticking to puzzles. We're sticking to puzzles right now. We've got a bunch of puzzles, and we're doing that. So that
if it's anything like Truth or Dare, I always lost that one. So.
Yeah. It's a little worse than that, to be honest with you. Some of the questions.
Wow.
Well. Again, guys, if you're in the chat room, we're going to talk a lot of Miami Fusion, anything like that. So, throw your questions in there. Also, like always, we do have the ability to take your voicemail. So if you want to leave us a voicemail, 786-474-4435, and I'll grab those. But Jim, it's MLS's 25th year. What a way to start the 25th year, right? And then this whole thing that we're not actually getting to see any soccer, but eventually they'll come back. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of go down memory lane with you, talking a little bit about the early days of MLS and where and finishing up kind of where we are and all that. But I know you played, in I don't know if it was called, what was it called, the A League back then with the up in New York.
The Rough Riders, USISL it used to be called.
Okay, yeah. Back in those days, there was so many different variations of the leagues. It was USISL or A League or USL, or I mean, it's every other year. It seemed like the league was changing a little bit. But you saw it there in the late '90s, and then as an MLS player in the late '90s as well. Talk about what it was like in those early days of pro soccer here in the United States compared to, kind of like where we are now.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really compare, especially when you go back to the days of pre-MLS. Again, we were always, you always heard that it was coming. The big league was coming, and each year, like you just said, no, it's going to be called the A-League. No, it's going to become USISL. So, it was difficult, but that's all we really had. So I don't want to say, obviously the dreams were in Europe, but for us, it wasn't really realistic because back in the day, they had 3 foreigner limit. So, the Bosman ruling didn't come in. So there wasn't real. I mean, a guy like John Harkes actually had to try out for, a couple of teams. And he's on the national team, and how good Harkes was, So being an American, it was just difficult. So, we basically, all the best players really wanted to, and it's funny to think about it now, but all the best players wanted to play in the top league they could possibly play in. And like even the Greek leagues, we played in New York. I mean, they were giving us, $500 a game, and, I took a pay cut to play USISL, to be honest with you, from the Greek leagues, so, we just wanted to play, and we knew, and we heard that this league was possibly going to lead into, a major league, type of thing, scenario. So, but again, you're always looking for the best competition to play against, and, for us, it was, those bus rides were brutal. We play a game Friday in Carolina, drive 12 hours, and then have a game Sunday, and it was, you're supposed to just, could you imagine doing that now in MLS? I mean, it's just, it's so far away. And meanwhile, I'm working a full-time construction during the week. I have 2 games on Sunday, and I got to get back in time, So it was a lot to figure out back then. But again, I think most players like me look at the league now, and we're just really happy that it's gotten to this point. I mean, I don't think we could have ever envisioned it being from the beginning to now. I mean, it's moved pretty fast, especially for players too. I mean, the opportunities for players. To me, it's just great. It's great to see.
It kind of reminds me when I was growing up, and Peter probably remembers this too. There was nothing really to look up. When I was a kid, at least I had NASL. I went to LA Aztecs games and stuff like that. But we didn't have anything to dream about because, I grew up. I was right out of high school. There was really no leagues to play in. So there goes my soccer dreams. Wanting to be a professional soccer player. And Peter, Peter's older than I am, of course. And for him, it was probably. Look, you probably feel the same way, right, Peter?
Look, Ed, don't make fun of my age because me and Jim are right around the same age. So you're making fun of him too, then. All right. So be nice to our guests. I mean, that's not very nice of you, Ed.
Well, I was talking about you. I'm not talking about Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're 1 year apart. I looked it up.
Okay.
Which way? Which way? You older or younger?
I'm 50. Well, actually, but I don't know where your birthday is. But I will be 51 in a month. So.
Yeah, I'm going to be 52 in September. So
close. Yeah, close.
Yeah.
Don't throw around that old thing like that, Ed.
Okay, so
and by the way,
Ed, you're younger than me, really?
Yeah, look, I got the beard. Yeah, I got the white.
Oh, that's shocking.
And out of all 3 of us,
bad photoing right there, bad lighting for you there, man.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Out of all 3 of us, who looks the oldest?
Well, I do look older to you now. Now that you talk about it.
Yeah.
But if I shave everything, I'm going to look younger than you guys. That's the thing. Yeah, I'm not afraid to show my hair, my beard going.
You're afraid to show that chin. You're afraid to show that chin. Anyways, let's move on. And some of the you played in New York for a little bit, but then eventually you played with some greats up there. Alexi Lalas and it was the Metro Stars. And I don't know. MLS, was it really, in your opinion, was New York really embracing the Metro Stars at that time?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's. I mean, could it have been better? Possibly, but we got
terrible name.
I remember my first year there, our home opener was we had 45,000 at Giants Stadium. So and it's funny enough, it was I believe it was Clint Mathis' rookie year. and he actually scored. He was a sub, came in and scored, and they beat us 3-2. The difference is in New York, it's very fickle. You can't keep losing. Right. And expect bigger fans. I mean, that's just the way New York is for me the best pro sports town there is, because they have 2 teams in every sport, and it's hardcore. And people let you know, and it's actually the right way to have it. Because players, you got to be on edge a little bit. Because it means so much to a lot of people. So, I mean, for me, yeah, I mean, New York was totally different from Miami, but the New York fans, they were there showing up at the clinics. But having said that, if you're not winning, then maybe they'll go to get more Yankee games that year. It's totally different, in terms of that. So
they've got options over there. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And in the summer, in summertime there, when we play too, don't forget there's beaches. Anywhere you go in New York, it's an hour, and maybe an hour and a half to drive to anything you want to do. So I mean, you got to be on your toes, and that's why it's hard to make it in New York.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? I mean, after that, you came to South Florida. I mean, what are your thoughts? What's the difference? The big difference that you think? We're kind of talking about that to coming to South Florida from New York.
Well, I mean, for me, it was obviously when you're playing a sport or doing anything. And you look at my skin, my skin's not really, good for this South Florida sun in July. I mean, I remember coming in the first 2 weeks, and I was literally jogging around the field, on Henry Gutierrez. And I'm looking, I'm like, I go, do we really train in this every day this time? It just felt like the sun was just like right behind me, and it was hitting me, and it's something to get used to. And I never thought I was going to be able to get used to it. And, but eventually you figure it out. Everywhere you are, it's different. But at the beginning, no, I was like, it's brutal. I mean, in New York, the humidity's brutal in July, but this South Florida sun in July, I was like, again, I gained so many more freckles than I could ever even imagine. I put more, SPF 150 on. I mean, I was, Jamie Rojas, the trainer, he was always telling me, you got your stuff on, you got it. And I'm like, yeah, I got it on. Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't worry.
It's funny. You got to put that on to go to work. That's crazy.
Well, I was gonna say he had to put stuff on like that astronauts would have to do to be outside in the outer space. That's the type of stuff that.
Yeah, for sure.
But it obviously wasn't that bad. It just stayed, right?
Yeah.
You still call it.
I figured it out.
You figured it out. But that is a challenge when players come here and getting used to the humidity and the heat and all that. It's something I grew up down here, so I'm used to it. But it never gets easy. But
that's the first time I've ever heard about electrolytes. Jamie was saying, "No, take this before training and after training." So that could have been anything. Whatever Jamie, he wanted to give me anything he wanted. That's the first time I was just pumping stuff into it. So hopefully it works. And Jamie Rojas, he took great care of me.
That's good. Well, when you came to Miami, you started off with I think it was Ivo Wortman at the time was the coach, right? And then transitioned from Ivo to Ray Hudson. I mean, that had to be a pretty big difference. I mean, very different style. I mean, Ray's so gregarious and out there, so it had to be a big change. And also, it was a change on the field because Ray really turned things around with you guys and brought in some new guys and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, the personalities alone, and especially the persona that the coaches let you see. They don't let certain things go on. They don't want you guys to really know what they're like, basic questions. And I think for me, that was Ivo. But Ivo had a great personality in the locker room. I mean, with us, and he was always kidding. He was, but he kept a lot of things close to the vest, And I thought Ivo had tremendous training sessions. Don't forget, I came from New York. And Bora Milutinovic was the coach. And then I went to Ivo Wortman. And I was like, wow, this guy Ivo really knows his stuff. These training sessions are good, sharp, short, what we need, And but as far as a personality,
I mean, it's just a different coaching style with Ray. I mean, Evo was really hands-on in every little thing. I mean, when I played for him, he would tell me, I don't want you to pass midfield. Do not go anywhere. And, that was his style. Did I necessarily like that? No. I mean, obviously, no one really likes it, but, he's the boss. You got to, you want to keep playing. You do that. And so, again, but Ray was just free-flowing. I had to say to Ray, hey, do you mind if I could go? I go, listen, I noticed Bish is coming back to the ball. I go, I'll check away and I'll come back. He goes, Jimmy, I don't care what you do, as long as when we lose the ball, you get back to where you need to be. And that was the thing for every single one of our players. I don't care. You want to make a run? I can't see what you see. So go on, trust in yourself. But as soon as you just get your ass back. And when we don't have the ball. And I mean, really, that was the simple rule for our team. And, if you didn't do it, you didn't play. But most people, as you saw, if you remember, we pretty much did that, for Ray.
Yeah. Those, talk about Ray. Last time we had you on, we had you on Ultras Alive. It was quite a little time back. You told us some great stories about Ray Hudson. Could you tell us one of those anecdotes that you have?
Listen, you guys see him more than me now, with all the, the TV shows that he does. I mean, there's really not much more to say. When he calls you, it always seems like he's in a rush, and he's always coming up and kissing you when he sees you. Especially with the players, he treats us. Ray doesn't have kids, so he looks at us as his sons or little brothers type of thing. He really took care of us in terms of. You're asking me about what it was like in terms of, USISL to the MLS today. I mean, Ray came from basically the reverse. He was the NASL where they were playing in front of 77,000 people, and now he's back. And then there's nothing. They take the whole game away from you. So he was part of that generation. So he understood that, and he stayed.
Yeah, I watched those years. I was there in the stands watching him. When he's with a bunch of scrubs basically, but because it was soccer was wasn't doing the best right at that time. But I remember going to see him at the old Lockhart, and at the time they had Winn-Dixie on their chest, and that was back when having sponsors was not necessarily the cool thing, and people cheering, "Let's go Winn-Dixie, let's go!" Ridiculous. And that was a jab, but he was there for all that.
So he knows what it's like, and I think the hardest thing to do in terms of coaching now is how does every one of these players, how can I impact each and every one of those players? Because they're different personalities. You can't be the same guy to each and every one. And Ray kind of saw that in the locker room, I'm sure, as he is when he was a player, and now here he is. He's in charge. Which, by the way, he didn't really want to be in charge. Doug basically forced him to do it. He wasn't sure, but eventually he knew, listen, okay, let's give this a go. And he had Doug. But for the most part, he involved us with a lot of things, in terms of asking us questions. What do you think it is? Not just me, but a lot of other players. And what do you think it is? And that's what he was, especially during training when we'd have a water break. He'd have a word with one or two players and go from there. Even if it's as simple as, how you feeling, kid? How's the legs? You good? Or if he's making fun of you. He just had that, touch where he knew what drove each and every player there. Because obviously some players are playing more than others. So you got to massage the other guys a little bit. But it was, I don't know, it just seemed seamless and easy for Ray to do that. He may say it wasn't, but he put on a good show because no matter what he said, we were willing to do. Simple as that.
Yeah, well, there was one story in particular. Ray came on the show and told us about it years ago. It was about, and it was something to the effect about changing Serena's diapers. And it involved you.
Well, his biggest thing, Diego was a special player. I mean, it would be everybody, like, you passed to Diego at the game, and depending on what he did with the ball the first 5 minutes, you knew what type of game he was going to have. Sometimes he wanted to be the maestro, which Diego couldn't be, but he could be a bull and a goal scorer, and he was brilliant. So, he played on emotion. and it was one of those things where at the beginning, Doug and I and Ray went out to eat. Actually, we was at Doug's house, and he basically said, okay, what's the problems? And I was like, well, talking about all the team. Well, we got to sort Diego out a little bit, and he's like, no, we don't. No, we don't. We don't have to sort Diego out. And I'm like, well, Ray, a couple of things are happening. Diego sometimes would play. He goes, I don't care what Diego does. We need him. He's going to be there. And he says, every time he has a thing, you're going to be the one who's going to say, no, keep your mouth shut. We're going to follow Diego. Diego's going to take us where we need to be. And it was a really good lesson for me because I've never done this before. That year he had a contract issue. And I called him up and I said, hey, the players are here with you, because he didn't come straight away. And I said, look, the players, whatever it does, whatever you need, the players are behind you. Come back when you're ready. We'll do this, man. I left him a message. And if you need me for anything, give me a call. And, he called me and he says, the whole time I've ever been here, no one's ever done that for me. And he said, I appreciate that. And then it kind of changed Diego, because Diego wasn't speaking great. He was only speaking Spanish for the most part. And so it was difficult at times for him. And, he was, let's face it, I love him to death. He's a totally different guy now. But he was a madman at times, so you didn't know what the hell you were going to get with him, on and off the field, So at the end of the day, it was my job to, baby him, take care of him. If he needs to be baby him. I did it for Ray and it worked.
Yeah, I think what Ray had basically told us was something to the effect that he yelled out at you or something like that. That if his diapers needed to be changed, you're going to change them. We need
That's
it.
Right.
Basically, something to that effect. And it was,
right.
But of course, it's told in Ray's way, and so it's hilarious, right? It's not funny when I say it, but it's funny when he says it.
But when he tells the story, like he'd be yelling it right at me. No, you're not. A finger in the face. No, you're going to change this. Whatever he needs, you're going to, and Ray didn't use the greatest of words right now, so, but he got the point across.
Well, you know what? One of the guys on the chat room is saying that as a captain, he's saying Jim was 16-5-5 as our captain. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
How did it feel to be the captain of the team? When that happened, what did you think? Do you think you deserved to be the captain?
Well, I mean,
he could have picked Diego.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're at that level, you have to have an ego and think you deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I could do it.
I would.
It wasn't an issue for me, because to be honest, the only other team I was never captain on was the Metro Stars. I was there a year. But eventually, like even in New England, towards the end, I was the captain of the team, and it's just one of those things. I never thought about it, regardless of who the captain was, I was going to help him out. And, if you talk to many players, I never played the game. I was always talking, and like even helping teammates, whether it's slide over, okay, good shot, good effort. Hey, get your foot in there. Or if I'm trash talking to the other team, that to me, that was one of those things that, that's the way I played. I like, if I can get, don't forget, there was a lot of times where I was playing in the middle of the field there, and you got Marco Echeverry, Peter Nowak coming against us. So I got to figure out an edge to get in there. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. They'd ignore, like Peter Nowak, he did exactly what he wanted to do. Didn't answer me, had a couple of words here and there, but overall, he just, I was nothing to him. And he was brilliant to play against. So for me, you just get to the point where that's the way I played. I talked all the time. So whether I was captain or not, I was going to, speak my views regardless of that. And again, Carlos Yamosa, he could be a captain. Bish could be a captain. There's so many guys that could be a captain. It's not even it's not even an issue for me.
Yeah, you're talking about the talking on the field. It makes me think of, in our current situation right now with MLS, they're not playing, but there's talk about, coming back hopefully soon, and that potentially, and I think it was Dr. Fossey is saying, the doctor for the country or whatever, is saying that games for sports in general may need to be played in empty stadiums. So thinking about MLS, if MLS has to go forward and play some games in an empty stadium, as a fan, of course, I want to be at the games, but this could also open up a whole new level of enjoyment of listening to what the players say on the field. What might people hear, when they mic that field up? And we're sitting at home and listening to people like yourself back in those days, yelling and screaming at each other, and I'm the trash talking. I can only imagine what we may hear if they do play, closed stadium games.
I mean, maybe the players are much nicer, but that could have never happened when we would play. I mean, it would have to be a pay-per-view event in terms of language. Yeah, you can. Some of the things that I've said, I'm not exactly proud of it, but I thought they were fitting at the moment.
At the moment.
Some of the things that are said, and then after the game, you're laughing about it. Especially on corner kicks, a lot of things are said, and and especially your friends. You have a laugh, and what are you guys doing? Where are we going out after this game? Stuff like that. And it's the biggest thing was when you're walking out to the field. I remember people always say, "Guys, you must be so intense, looking, getting ready to play. We're doing the national anthem and everything." And after that national anthem, there's guys. I guarantee you, there's one guy on your team looking in the crowd and looking for good-looking ladies.
Of course.
And if he finds one, he's going to let every single one of those guys know. And we're going to be looking at fifth row, right, brunette, past the guy in the red hat. I mean, that's coming.
That's awesome.
But that's the way it is. But again, I think most players, when you're playing, you get to that point where it's all understood. At the time on the field, you want to rip the guy's head off if you say something or a nasty tackle. But after the game, it's pretty much over. No one really took it to heart, especially now the way they do. There's so many other guys. Well, I can't believe it. Some of these pros in the Premier League saying he said this to me. I mean, come on. I mean, some of the things I don't get that at all, to be honest with you. But we're in a different world now, So we got to respect it.
Jim, what do you think? You're a coach now. You've got some experience, telling people what to do, as you did back then as well. What do you think about Inter Miami, how they've been playing? What's your impression? We've only had 2 games, but what do you think so far?
Well, that's the thing. There's only 2 games so far, and it's unbelievable what luck they had to go through. Opening day. Everybody's like the likes of you guys, and many people like you guys are waiting for this. The stadium's beautiful, and then this happens. I mean, it's unbelievable. You can't even write this stuff up, especially for soccer down in this area. It's unfortunate, but again, it's we didn't get to see enough. But I'm still looking forward to a lot of watching them, and hopefully they do well. I mean, and again, they got to do well, especially out of the gate. I think they were unlucky a little at times against LA, and looking at their lineup, the players seem to be fine in terms of, but we'll see. It's early. There's a lot to go. So I don't think it would be really fair to really comment on how they're playing, because both games have been away. And the first, it's difficult to play on the road. It really, especially when you're talking to LA, the time difference, and you're coming against LA, who has a year under their belt with a special player on their team. So, you lose 1-0, and to be fair, you could have been tied. So, it's early days. I was hoping to see, by around the 7th game, you'd really get a good eye. Okay, this guy's not really working out. We need to change this possibly, but hopefully. I think we all want to see positive things from them. That's for sure. We'll see. But time will tell.
But that DC game, did you see the DC game? That one hurt.
Yeah,
I think we should have totally gotten that win.
Yeah, but guess what? We didn't.
Yeah.
So here we are. We could. This is pro sports now. I mean, for me, this home opener. I mean, they really got to win that home opener. That's what I was feeling. Because next thing. The key in any league, especially MLS, is those 3-game losing streaks. You got to limit those 3-game losing, because they're hard. Once after that 3rd game, it's hard to, keep it going, because it just seems after that 3rd loss, now you're like, uh-oh, here we go. So you really gotta move it when you're 2 games. You can't get that third loss. It's difficult if you look at the history of the league.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Hey, before we let you go, because we're trying to keep these shows a little shorter, guys, on Thursdays. But there's been some reports out that the U.S. is going to, or I don't know if they've announced it yet. I was reading on an athletic article that they're going to do away with the developmental academy. And I know you've had some time coaching at the youth at the national team level, up in Bradenton. What are your thoughts on USSF disbanding that developmental academy, and really now it's going to be up to the MLS and USL and the pro leagues to kind of run maybe their own developmental academy? Do you think they're ready for that? I mean, what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
Well, I think it's happened already. They disbanded it, and the timing. Maybe they wanted to do it a little later, or if this was going to happen, but certainly because of the situation we're all in, they decided to do it. So I don't really know enough about it right now, but seeing, I think it is from initial reports of what's going to replace that. I think it only makes sense in terms of the MLS teams involved. I mean, at the end of the day, the better players in this area. I mean, for me, Inter Miami, every single one of those players that are good in this area, they should all want to be here, aspire to play for Inter Miami. I mean, that should be the natural thing for every team in the MLS, and taking responsibility for it. The pro teams, I think that's a good thing. I don't know the money details as of yet, but at the end of the day, it's a natural progression in terms of being, play grassroots soccer, and the next thing you know, you go to USL team, and it's a natural pyramid that we've been talking about for years. So I'm not too worried about the disbandment because I know there's going to be something else in place. We just got to see, because when the DA first started in 2007, I was with IMG, and it was totally different than it is now. So it's evolution, really. The game is changing in so many different ways. So I haven't really been involved to say it's wrong to do this or right to do it. The higher ups made a decision, but I'm pretty confident everything moving forward is in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. I think in a lot of ways our youth system is kind of not working. So let's try something different. Let's put it in the hands of the pro teams. And the biggest question that from everybody that I'm reading about is the reach, because you only have so many MLS markets, so it's filling in those gaps and making sure players don't fall through the cracks, and really everybody is noticed and gets an opportunity. And then there's also talk about them disbanding the U19s, which again kind of makes sense because like in Inter Miami's case, that would be their League One team. Really,
right?
So what's the point of fielding a U19 in their academy if you're going to put them on the USL squad? So
and again, you're talking about at the U19 at that level. I mean, Pellegrini, what's he, 20 years old, and he's starting for the team, the top team. So I mean, U19, 18, they could play on the U23s, wherever they set up for those Miami teams. Right. These players are going to be found. You can't hide anymore. There's no more excuses for anybody. And for me, Miami, all these players in this area should work hard to get through this organization because it's the best path for them. It's in their home. There's no more excuses, really. To be fair, there's no more excuses. And even for coaches in South Florida, there's no more excuse. If you have a good player, you should put them to Miami. I mean, they do it all over the world. There's no poaching of players. Every good player, if you're a player yourself and you made it to a certain level, that should be your goal, pushing someone else ahead because you know what it's like. So, I mean, I don't care what nationality he is anyway, but, I just think the facility's there now for Inter Miami. And look, it's their job, but it's also the soccer clubs in this area to support them and also support them with players as well. And not just think, everybody's, looking to steal players. I mean, every great player should be on Inter Miami in our area.
Yeah, you mentioned facilities. Just imagine if you had the facilities that Inter Miami is just finished building, basically. I mean,
I think I would have been soft. I mean, we grew up with we grew up with my father used to, get rid of the broken glass and big rocks on the field. I think now I would be too soft. I have players on my team complaining that the ground is too hard and it's sand based. Are you kidding me? We had dirt. I mean, it's totally different. So I'm fine from where I started.
From where you came.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thanks so much, Jim, for walking down memory lane with us, and it's always fun talking to you. You've got so much experience. People still love to hear your stories, and go down the glory days of the Miami Fusion, and now we're going to have some new glory days with Inter Miami, and it'll be fun to talk with you in the future, and get your beat on it from a former professionals. I mean, you were the man down here, so it's good to hear from you.
All right, good to see you guys, and hey, let me know. I'll catch up with you at the stadiums and one of the games. Let me know when you're there.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you Sunday. See you later.